Hello, you multi. Megalomaniac Malt Monster Minstrels. And thank you to Domanzi, or Domains One. Yeah, or Domains One, could be. Yeah. I hope I've pronounced that correct. It's a malt mention. Thank you, Domains One, for the malt mention. Introducing Ralphie Review 985 extras. With the extras, what I do is create a video after a specific spirit review, usually whiskey, and I talk a bit more generalised so as to share my experience to help you become more objective and focused when you're looking at this bewildering variety of globally sourced spirits, which is suddenly becoming more available to us all wherever we are. And it does vary, of course. I'm very fortunate in that London being a bit of a hub for import and exportation globally, you do tend to get a really good variety of globally available spirits, in particular whiskey and rum. We also get bourbons from the US, but generally I have to say that more and more of the generic bourbons are really corn-led, and you're getting the same corn flavour in a lot of the different brands. And for me, who's used to Scotch whisky, I just find that I just want some variety after a while. But in this World Whisky series that I am recording at the moment, I am including an American bourbon. So I'm taking this opportunity, having just started my World Whisky Tour with Ralphie Review 985 Filey Bay English Whisky. I'm going to introduce 5 more whiskies, which I'm going to be reviewing over the next 5 weeks for you. And my next review is for a whisky which I found absolutely delightful. It's growing on me. I expected to enjoy it, but not as much as I am. And this is an Irish single malt from Dingle Distillery, and it's called, well, it says Samhain, but that's not the way you pronounce it. It's Samhain is the way you pronounce it. But it says Samhain to me, and that's the way I pronounce it. Interesting, very occult Celtic label, very intriguing actually. Dingle is a small distillery on the west coast of Ireland, and in my opinion all of Ireland can make great whisky, but the real personality whiskies are coming from the south west of Ireland at the moment, and that includes Dingle. So this is one that I feel it's older and more developed than the Filey Bay, and again it's very much a British Isles whisky, so it's readily available to me because I happen to live in the Irish Sea, you know, right beside Ireland. That's handy. And after that I'm going to be going much further abroad. Not quite that far abroad. I'm going to be reviewing an Indian whisky called Indri. Right, this is Indri Trini. Struggling, and excuse me a second. It's Trini, the 3 wood. It's bottled at 46%, non-chill filtered and no added colour. So here we have an integrity delivered malt from northern India. So you could say that it's really in the foothills of the Himalayas. So that it's got the altitude. People don't realise how, because India is such a huge landmass of a country, people don't realise just how diverse the ecosystems are in India. And India does grow barley, it does harvest, it produces its own single malt whisky, and we've already seen this with the likes of Amrut and Paul John, but now there's some more Indian whiskies coming out there, and at the moment in the British market, they represent particularly good value. And for me, the real appeal is that as a whisky, it's very exotic. I'm picking up flavours that you just don't find in Scotch whisky. You see, with the Irish whisky, with its excellent version of Dingle, the Samhain, it's bottled at 50.5%. It's a bit more expensive, but it's a proper cask strength whisky. It's non-chill filtered, no added colour, so we're following a theme here with these bottlings. We really are. It's an important theme, which is the integrity theme. Global whiskies are becoming integrity. That needs to be mentioned. It needs to be discussed. We all need to be aware of it, even when we're not actually buying it yet. So in the next few years, when you start to spot it, you know what you're looking at because someone online's mentioned it. My next whisky I'm going to be reviewing is a peated whisky, and it's from Tasmania. Tasmania is one of the great unsung whisky locations of the world, which has been suppressed from our consciousness by particularly high prices for the products. Tasmania is still finding its feet, still navigating its pricing situation. But you will find this no problem, you'll find it in Australia. And bear in mind, in Australia, you don't get a lot of options and a lot of choice. It's just the landscape that you have, the economic commercial landscape. But you really want to know about some of your own indigenous Australian region whiskies, and Tasmania, a fascinating place to visit, fascinating environment really. A lot of it is still very pristine and overlooked by the brutal hands of overdevelopment exploitation. And you have distillers there now bringing more affordable versions of the whisky to a global market, and with it they're bringing peated whisky. And what I'm enjoying about Hellier's Road peated version, bottled at 46.2%, and it doesn't go into, it doesn't actually state, yeah it does actually, non-chill filtered, there you go, it is just non-chill filtered, and I'm pretty sure that's natural colour, by the way. So another integrity whisky. I've just spotted it in the writing. Sometimes I miss things when I'm looking because I'm not the brightest, as you know. Hey ho. Such is life. But I'm really warming to this because it's a peated whisky which I've been scratching what's left of my head and asking myself, what Scotch whisky does this remind me of? What Scotch whisky have I tasted in the past that reminds me of Hellier's Road? And I can't think of a single one. It's certainly nothing from Islay. I'm thinking perhaps Benromach peat smoke might be somewhere heading towards it, or peated Benriach, but no. This has got a wonderful fudgy peatiness, an absolute singular character to it, and I'm so glad I bought this and I'm really enjoying it. And this is one that I'm having fun sharing with a few of my local malt mates who are completely perplexed by their first experience of a Southern Hemisphere peated single malt. Then the next one, we're going to Sweden, to Mackmura Distillery, for a version of the whisky called Svensk Rock. Now, the downside here is they've bottled at a 50 centilitre bottle. So as far as I'm concerned, you're getting a short measure. So what I do is I take the price they're asking, divide it by 50, multiply it by 70 and see if it's still worth buying. That's the way I decide. Now, it's getting on to be a bit expensive. However, I am looking for a European whisky which is breaking the rule book a little bit and introducing new flavours that you simply don't find in Scotch whisky. And Mackmora Distillery, now that they've got quite a bit of experience under their belt with various permutations of their whisky, now they're establishing themselves on the international market. And my goodness, they're exporting their whisky to other distilleries around the world. Yeah, for them to use as part of their own production. Just so as you know. And this is a whisky which has been made with the smoke going into the kiln. So it's kind of half peated, but part of the peating process is to use a quantity of juniper shrub and berries and the shrub to get that juniper note into the whisky. Now, the first question you're asking is, hey Ralphie, are you not showing us a whisky gin? And the answer is absolutely not. That's what I expected, actually, but it's not what I got. I got something far more interesting, substantial, and most definitely not Scotch whisky. When I'm looking for whiskies outside of Scotland, I'm looking for whiskies that do not taste of Scotch whisky. That's what I'm actually looking for, because I want a change. If I'm looking for a whisky that tastes like Scotch whisky, I'll go to Scotland, because that's where I'll find it. Best quality, the cheapest price. One more whisky I want to introduce to you, and it's the American whisky. And you'll notice there's no Japanese whisky getting reviewed. There's no German whisky getting reviewed. There's no American single malt whisky getting reviewed. I'll leave that for another day. There's so much diversity and variety globally that I want to actually take the time to introduce online to the online spirits community some of these more overlooked whiskies, which I know it gets fewer views, but hey ho, it's the way it goes. This is a passion project for me, really, and I just want to bring to your attention some of the whiskies we're going to be seeing more of in the future. So I want to be first off the block, so to speak. So my final reviews for Wild Turkey Rare Breed. Now, why is this? Simple, because Wild Turkey Rare Breed is a proper old school bourbon. That's what it is. This is a barrel proof, so it's bottled at, get my steampunker so I can see it, 58.4%. Whoa! It's bottled at 116.8 proof. So it's one banger of a whisky, and not one to be opened near naked flames. Although you could put it on your Christmas or plum pudding and set fire to it if you wanted. This is made in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. And it's what I describe as an old school bourbon, where the different grains used in its production are properly integrated and it's been properly matured in better quality oak casks that are actually delivering more resinous notes and adding more depth of flavour to experience. And importantly, when I'm sipping this, I'm not getting slapped around the face with generic GMO cookie cuttered standard issue corn whisky, which unfortunately I'm seeing too much of in the less good bourbons that end up in the European market, because there's less demand for them at home in the USA. Now, I hope you find this interesting. It certainly gives you a point of reference for my forthcoming reviews. I've just reviewed 985, so the Irish Whiskey Dingle for 986, the Indian Whiskey, the Indri, for 987, and 988 we're going to Tasmania, to Hellier's Road, for a rather scrumptious peat moment. I tell you, if you're a peat whisky fan, you want a bottle of this. It's just such a different permutation of peat. It really is. Then we're going to Sweden for a different flavour style and profile of a really well-made whisky, by the way. This goes toe-to-toe with any Scotch whisky, despite the fact it's been bottled in a smaller bottle. And then we're going to conclude That's 890, and we're concluding in review 891 with Wild Turkey Rare Breed. A perennial hit with single malt Scotch whisky drinkers in Scotland who know about spirits. So there you go. Now you know. I tell you, if you're an American whisky fan, if you've overlooked this, now's your time, because this is better quality and better made than many of your so-called high-end collectible must-have, queue for 10 hours, bribe the retailer, treasure trove bourbons that are doing the rounds with all the crazy fever that's going on over in the US. You know what's happening? If you're a proper whisky drinker in the US, you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm Ralphie. Thank you for watching my extras, and I will be back with you in a few days' time with Ralphie Review 986, Dingle Samain. Really enjoying that. Frankly, it's one of the most characterful Irish whiskies I've tasted in a long time. Just saying.